So I'm hoping they go through this smoothly, but I refuse to make any bold predictions in that regard. But as you rightfully pointed out, kicking off with game number 1, which from us a hard point, we saw these two teams play yesterday. It was a 250 to 248 victory for Seattle. Again, as close as it.
Well, if I end up solo casting at any point, you guys will probably be able to work out why. I'll write a strongly worded email as well to your internet service provider after the day. But kicking things off already, Seattle Surge with a nice lead, 27-0, but still plenty of time left on P1, and more importantly, you see that fight on the minimap for the spawns for P2.
And it is this P1 kill actually where the dogfight happened towards the end yesterday, where Seattle just played it very calm, cool, and composed as well. And that's where the veteranship kicks in when you get down to those final moments. But you don't have to even worry about that if you just blow the other team out. So Seattle, again, doing a fantastic job on P1, of course, though. It looks like the Gorillas have the rotation on.
Of course, I completely agree with Nameless's keys to victory, presented by GameFuel, of course. You have to highlight Decimate, very slow off the starting blocks yesterday. Needs to have a massive performance here, redeem himself a little bit, and of course all will be forgotten from day 1 if you can get redemption on the Seattle Surge.
Yeah, it's sort of an interesting tidbit about that as well, of just like, it's not just Decimate, of course, like the entire team needs to kick it up in the slam category as well. But when you look at specifically against Seattle Surge, the first 100-point club we saw this year, it was Surge beating the Gorillas on Azir Cave. That's when Octane like set the kill record as well. So it's not just like Decimate that needs to pick it up. They need to pick it up to just catch up to like Octane, for example. But of course, right now, he's the one he's been hanging out. It's actually Panda right now, leading not the lobby, but at least his team.
Kill feed all in favor of Seattle Surge. They'll break through P2. They'll claim the final 20 seconds of scrap, and for LA Gorillas, they'll take that. They get themselves, of course, 19 points. The rotation coming through. They're ready and waiting on the new hill across the map. And for Seattle now, it's about trying to break through. This really should be where the LA Gorillas get a ton of time.
And this is an important hill for them to get a ton of time because they have the setup that they want. They have a ton of pressure on the map that, of course, you see Seattle just now starting to cross through tunnel to start to even put a little bit of pressure on the hill. So big gunfights here for Blast, able to take down Panda, turns on the next one as well. But you see him turn on a player, but what didn't happen is the Gorillas never had the spawns in Seattle, the immediate break on the hard.
Yeah, you're losing control. That's one just a little too quickly there. If you're LA Gorillas, Seattle Surge now inside the hill. Once again, building themselves a bigger lead. And of course, we saw the tweets from yesterday. The trash talk that commenced. I'm sure Slack probably has another tweet ready in his drafts, getting ready to hit send if this is another 3-0 series, which I think many may assume it might be. I have a feeling, though, this one could go the distance. Chance I maybe just being a little too optimistic, a little too hopeful, but hopefully LA Gorillas have learned a thing or two from the first series yesterday. Rotation coming through to our new hill. And unfortunately, if you're an LA Gorillas fan, it's all Seattle Surge 107 the third.
I was going to say, you might be feeling the Gorillas put pressure on this series, and I guess depending on the searches, they might, but just little things like leaving those back spawns open, like that's one of those hills you just can't get broken on that quickly, let alone at all, honestly. Like, you should be able to have at least like a bit of a scrappy hold, but it's just a costly mistake, and of course, we'll see if they make more, because right now on the construction hill, the Gorillas got there first, and Seattle takes them, what, 20 seconds, and they just bully them out.
I think the issue is it's kind of the first push every time from Seattle Surge, right? There's no kind of first line of defense from the LA Gorillas. Every single hill they rotate to is open all hours. In goes Seattle Surge. They get a clean wipe and they retake control. The score is going to get a little out of control. It might actually reach 100 points or thereabouts as we rotate, of course, over to our final hill of our first rotation. You can already see Apathy doing a good job just sitting right at the back of the map. Trying to block those spawns and maybe try and get himself a few spawn kills if he's unlucky and LA Gorillas still spawn there.
Yeah, I really like some analysis that Mert gave yesterday when talking about Apathy. Apparently, it takes 2 weeks for the dad strength to really kick in.
Oh, it does.
So obviously, we pointed out the thing 2 weeks ago. It didn't pan out too greatly, but then Apathy came out firing on all cylinders yesterday. Played fantastic. And you talk about a man that needs to get you some spawns again. You just need a dad to go and get there for you. And of course, they're at least contesting the hill. And it's another hill. This is what, 3 in a row, where the girls get there first and do not get a substantial amount of time. And yes, there's 40 seconds left on the hill. I've seen it once. I've seen it again, and it's going to happen a third time. Seattle are just going to come out on top of it.
Overall, just a really smart heads-up play from App. Just play his life at the back of the map, wait for his teammates to start pushing forward, and as soon as he recognizes, all right, I've got spawns, he can instantly push forward towards the new hill. And Seattle Surge, I mean, we mentioned, what, the first 100-point club of the year was Seattle versus LA Gorillas Azir Cave. I mean, they might be looking for a 50-point club at this point. I mean, Seattle playing this one so well.
Okay, 50 might be too much of a stretch. Maybe. You know, fingers crossed is right. Because again, at the very least for the Gorillas, they have been rotating to the hills early just to make sure they can get 5 or 10 seconds on board. It's just literally everything after that has been collapsing. But we do go back to bridge. We go back to P1. And you can already see Seattle doing a nice job. They've already flipped the spawns. They got the side that they want. Now they just need to get in the hard point. And, well, they'll be big chilling like they have been this entire time.
I think the impressive thing here is you're just watching a team who just seem to understand the game just to a different level comparative to their opponents. That's how it very much feels. I mean, the way Seattle Surge have manipulated their spawns has been the tier 1 so far, always ready and waiting. And when you do that for an entire rotation and look at the lead you've earned yourselves, it's very, very difficult to throw away a game when you have such a sizable lead after just the first rotation chance.
And especially because it's like, it honestly is mainly down to the slang as well. Like, yes, the Gorillas had one bad setup on the old P3 hill where they just got spawn flipped immediately. But for the most part, it's just every single player is going to be negative by somewhat of a substantial margin as well. And we talked about Octane putting up numbers in the first series they had. Now it's Pander, 27 kills, by far and away leading the lobby in kills.
27 and 14, 50 seconds hill time. In his name. He's having a great performance as Seattle Surge now just need 40 more points. App trying to watch the cut. I'm watching the front. That's a gunfight you expect to see him win, but it doesn't matter. Teammate Panda there to trade. Seattle's still in the hill, and more importantly, they can close out map 1 here.
And this is fairly deja vu to the Azir Cave series as well. We mentioned it was a 100-point club, and I think they got like 78 points. It was right in that ballpark, something to that effect, but right about the same scoreline we've seen from these two teams before. And realistically, when you're looking at Surge as a whole, their respawn hasn't been like bad by any means. Like not astronomically great, of course, but not too shabby. And the Gorillas on the flip side have just had no success at all. So really, this is almost not an expectation for it to be this bad,
right?
But at least in terms of the W category, this is how I saw this first.
I mean, I think you really kind of talk about the search and destroy with Seattle Surge as we have all throughout the season. That's been the big talking point there. Reform for the most part has been pretty good. They've had a fair amount of game 5s, of course. They've been unfortunate enough to lose a handful of, but this is a great way to kind of start your series as you look to try and flip your ticket for Sunday. A semi-final, of course, awaits the winner of this series. They'll just need 10 more points, 240 to 95.
And speaking of 10 more points, of course, that's what you get if you win the CDL match. But coming into this home series, Seattle, they had 20 points total, both of which, the total points, only from the Gorillas. They got their next set of 10 points yesterday against the Gorillas. And so they started the weekend in 10th place. And just from beating the Los Angeles Gorillas, assuming the series goes that way, yes, we're being a little bit predictive, they'll jump up to like, what, the 7th or 8th spot just purely off beating one team. Just from beating one team.
Well, they start off map 1 in that fashion. Seattle Surge really dominant from the very beginning, despite Gorillas' best attempts at rotating early towards hills. Didn't really take Seattle long to break through and do some serious damage. Of course, another game field key to victory was focused on Decimate. I mean, a better game from his standpoint, 21 and 22. But overall, just not enough slaying output from the LA Gorillas. If you're Seattle Surge, you're feeling very, very confident.